So this is our presentation on art restitution. I'm Aaron.
I'm Court.
I'm Kaili.
And Jay's not here. So this idea of art restitution has really gained notoriety and public attention following World War II because of how the Nazis looted so much art. And then after they lost the war, when that was discovered, it really it made the topic very popular. So there's this trend of Western countries prior to World War II accumulating art from other countries and cultures that were previously colonized and displaying this art. So, but the idea of art restitution did not really gain public attention until after World War II. We're arguing that these colonial practices shouldn't continue, obviously, but that we shouldn't use legal means to restitute art, if at all. For a historical perspective. So, like I said, the only real historical precedents for art restitution are the backlash following World War II. This led to massive restitution of the art that the Nazis stole throughout Europe. And it also led to the restitution of arts back to African and Asiatic cultures as well. So a large argument in favor of restituting art is that it's somehow ethnocentric or racist for cultures to acquire other art. But we feel like this is easily disproved because such as in World War II, art was not taken from African, Asiatic, other countries. It was taken from within Europe. And the same thing is seen in the Napoleonic Wars when France stole art from other countries, in the Flemish, which is that example right there from Peter Bruegel. The Malagan are a culture in the Pacific that actually want their art to be sold and seen around the world. So what they do is after they use them in their ceremonies, they sell them so that museums around the world can have them and so that people can be exposed to that culture. And while most cultures admittedly don't agree necessarily with this philosophy, we think that it's a good one because it exposes the world to different cultures that we might not know about prior to this. And that's a practice that should be celebrated, not discontinued per se. And then even if we wanted to restitute art through legal means or for ethical reasons, laws regarding art restitution have largely been ineffective in the 20th century. And that's where I'm going to transition to Kaili.
Like he said, it's really difficult to establish art laws because there's so many different cultures within a country. And even in America, there's conflicting political parties and they don't agree on the same things. And then here in this picture, we see Australia trying to pass laws regarding art restitution. It wasn't really effective globally because Australia, they don't speak for the whole country. So, yeah. And then the countries, they don't really comply with each other because they all have different values. And then the legal side, it can't account for all the illegal trade that goes on because people aren't going to follow the law. They're not doing it now. They're not going to do it if it's passed. It would just be ineffective on a large scale.
So countries in the West have varying perspectives on how art should be restituted. For the U.S., they have various policies to identify what is worthy of legal protection. And while these policies give us a general interpretation of what should or shouldn't be restituted, it provides no explicit general interpretation of what should be returned, and what defines a cultural object. And words like cultural goods and cultural property are problematic because, again, it gives us a very vague definition of what is a cultural piece of work. And because with these difficulties caused by these policies, the U.S. believes it would be safe to better to keep these works in the West, and this is evident in the Bahamian Buddhas because they were kept out there in that country, but because it was taken over by the Taliban, it would eventually be destroyed, and it would be better off being in the West. And for the Europeans, they're a lot more strict in how they want art to be restituted. And the European Union established laws like Regulation 39/1192, which calls for art that was illegally taken to be returned to their former owners, like the Benin plaques, which the Europeans took in the 19th century, but now are beginning to return those. And while morally it would be the right thing to do, we would believe that it would logically be more safe to keep these in the Western museums, and that's where I would transition to Jade.
Okay, so Jade had a futuristic perspective, and she's accounting for these illegal art market practices because there's a significant illegal underground like art trade. But that being said, provenance of like legally acquired art is really fuzzy a lot of times, and without like proper paperwork and documentation, most paintings don't have this like line of provenance. So it's extremely difficult to distinguish from art that is acquired legally from art that isn't. And for this reason, it would be unclear to pass legal legislation that required art with unclear provenance to be restituted, because it would be unfair to museums that have acquired artworks through proper means, proper channels. And then obviously there's tremendous economic benefit of having art in Western countries. Local economies benefit from the tourism, and obviously museums benefit from having these works on display, so people can come in and see them and pay for them. And then public opinion is a big motivator, especially in the 21st century, for art being restituted. So this is an example of things going through other than a legal channel to get art restituted. And an example of this is the Benin plaques in Germany. They were taken near the end of the 19th century, and there were no legal qualifications or legal ramifications for museums that had these plaques, but public opinion was so strongly in favor of giving them back to the Benin that museums did it on their own through privatized restitution.
And then on to the limitations of art restitution. Like Court said in his slide, it's mostly taken from a Western point of view, and there's a difference between feeling entitled to have the art, which a lot of Europeans feel, and just having appreciation for it. And then also it doesn't account for colonial art theft, because you can't tell what's been stolen or where exactly it came from, because there's so many different like geographical places, and a lot of the places, they have the same like cultures, same history, they've just spread out over time, so who exactly would you return it to? And then also the ex post facto clause, it doesn't specifically it goes more towards like victims, but they can't target exactly who took the art, and most of the time they're not even tried because there isn't a strong case for it. But yeah, and also the culture of origin, that has to do a lot with geography, because like I said, there's a lot of art from a lot of different places, and it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where it came from.
So our resolution is pretty simple. While we firmly believe that art should stay in Western museums, we understand that cultures want their stuff back. But we believe that it's more beneficial to humankind, to the world as a whole, if we keep these artworks in public museums where they're not going to be destroyed, where they're available for everyone to see, and so that they're not sold to private vendors. And then we think that law should be left out of the conversation. This is our reference page.
Great, thank you. All right. Court, describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of group discussion.
Okay, so most of our essays were pretty much in favor of art restitution, but we wanted to make it a more interesting presentation, and we wanted to provide a counterpoint to what we thought other groups would. So we decided that we would take our argument and then kind of do the opposite of it, and it made it a little more difficult, but it made it more fun, and I think we did pretty effectively with opposing information on a lot of spots.
Great, thank you. And Aaron, how did the group decide to include Jade's perspective into the overall presentation?
So Jade's perspective involved a lot of it sort of made a solution as to how why art should be kept in museums, because it led to I guess more conclusions as to why it would be better for the community as a whole.
Great, thank you. And Kaili. Give one specific way your thinking changed as a result of learning about court's findings.
Well, I kind of agreed with him to begin with about things because I thought that art should be restituted. But when he was talking about like the different places this kind of art came from, I kind of realized that it's not like it's not like plausible kind of puzzle. Like it's really hard to do, and I realized that.
Okay.